All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about something that's happening on every team, on every project, but it's usually invisible. We're talking about the hidden energy states that literally determine if your team is going to succeed or if it's going to fall apart into chaos. This is the unseen physics of group performance.
So put yourself in this scene. You're the leader. Let's call you Dr. Peruva. Maybe you're in an ER, maybe you're in a boardroom right before a huge launch. The pressure is absolutely immense. You look around at your team and you realize you're not looking at one team. You're looking at 4 people in 4 completely different states of mind.
First, your eyes land on one person who is just exhausted. They're past tired and you can tell they're irritable. You can almost feel the friction coming off of them in waves.
Then you see the second person. They're anxious, they're talking a mile a minute, and their energy is just scattered. It's all over the place. Lots of energy, sure, but zero direction.
And team member number 3, well, they're the classic deer in the headlights. They look completely paralyzed by fear, almost sinking into their chair, avoiding eye contact with anyone, totally frozen.
And then, thankfully, there's the fourth person. This one is rock solid. They're calm, they're centered, they're laser focused. Now that combination of people, the irritable, the scattered, the frozen, and the focused, that sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster, right? But what if I told you these states aren't random? What if they're predictable? And what if you could actually manage them?
Well, that's where this ancient but incredibly powerful framework comes in. It's a way to decode these energy states. It's all built on 3 universal forces, or gunas, that explain why energy shows up the way it does in any system, and especially in a team that's under serious pressure.
Okay, so first up is Sattva. The easiest way to think about Sattva is clarity. It's that state of high cognitive flow. You know, when you're just in the zone? It's balance, it's stability. A person in a sattvic state sees things clearly, they perceive reality accurately, and they make decisions without all that emotional static getting in the way.
Next, we have Rajas. This is all about action, and sometimes volatility. Think of it as pure motion, pure energy, the drive to do something. And look, Rajas isn't bad. You absolutely need it to get anything started. But when it gets imbalanced, that powerful energy turns into restlessness and volatility. And finally, there's Tamas. This is Tamas. It's inertia. It's that feeling of being stuck, of heaviness, of inaction. It's the force of resistance. On a team, you see this as that deep, soul-crushing burnout, or that paralyzing deer-in-the-headlights fear.
Okay, so we've got the 3 energies: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now, here's where it gets really useful. The real power of this framework is using it as a diagnostic tool. Let's go back to Dr. Peruva's team and map these gunas directly onto what's happening in that room.
And boom, suddenly, it all makes sense. That calm, focused team member, that is pure sattva. They are your anchor. The anxious, fast-talking one, they're in a state of acute rajas, all that undirected energy. The person who's frozen and withdrawn, that's tamas, total inertia. But now look closely at the irritable, exhausted person. They're also in a rajasic state, and this is such a crucial distinction. Their irritability isn't a separate thing, it's the result of being in that high-energy rajasic state for way too long. They've been spinning their wheels, and now they've burned out. All that's left is friction. So you have 2 people in rajasic, but for very different reasons, and they need very different things from you as a leader.
And this is the real game changer. When you can see these behaviors not as personality flaws, but as predictable energy states, everything shifts. You stop making judgments like, why is this person so difficult? And you start making an objective assessment. Okay, they're deep in a rajasic burnout state. How do I help channel that?
So this leap from judging someone to diagnosing the energy in the room, well, that's what lets you move from just watching the chaos to actively managing it. So now that Dr. Peruva can read the room, what does she actually do? How does she shift the energy of the entire team?
It really comes down to intervening in 3 key ways. First, how you assign roles. Second, how you actively work to shift an individual state. And third, and this is the big one, how you use your own influence as the leader. So let's talk about roles. It's no longer just about who has the training, it's about who has the cognitive bandwidth in this exact moment. Dr. Peruva has to give the most complex critical task to her sattvic team member. They're the only one with the clarity for it. And what about the person frozen in Tamas? You give them the most simple mechanical task you can think of. You lower their cognitive load to almost 0.
But how do you actually shift someone's state? Because you can't just tell someone who's anxious to calm down. For that highly rajasic, scattered person, you have to give their energy a job. You channel it. You might say, go get the cart, and as you pull out each item, I want you to say its name out loud and wait for me to confirm. See what that does? The physical task and the verbal structure. It burns off that chaotic energy and forces a little bit of clarity.
Now, dealing with Tamas is trickier. If you confront that deep fear head-on, you're just going to make it worse. The tactical move here is to break the inertia with a tiny, tiny movement. Dr. Peruva might ask, can you just read me the current oxygen level out loud? It's a single, small, vocal contribution. It's a small, safe win that can be just enough to break that psychological freeze.
All of these tactics are great, but they bring us to the third, and honestly, the most powerful area of intervention. Because you can't manage Rajas and Tamas in your team if you, the leader, aren't holding Sattva yourself. It all comes back to you.
And here's why. A leader's energetic state is contagious. It sets the tone for the entire room. If Dr. Peruva runs in scattered, irritable, and full of rajas herself, she's just pouring gasoline on the team's anxiety. But if she can hold Sattva, if she's the calm, focused, clear center, she becomes a stable anchor that creates the psychological safety for everyone else to do their jobs.
And this really elevates the whole idea of leadership. A great leader isn't judging the motives of individuals. A great leader is diagnosing the energy of the entire system. You stop being a manager of people and you become a manager of performance physics.
So let's bring this right back to you. Just take a second. What's your dominant goon right now as you're listening to this? Are you feeling focused, clear, stable? That's Sattva. Are you feeling a little restless, eager to move on to the next thing? That's Rajas. Or are you feeling a sense of heaviness, of fatigue, of resistance? That's Tamas.
Just being able to recognize your own state is the first and most important step, because that's the ultimate lesson here. Your ability to observe and manage these states within yourself, your own inner balance, that is the single most powerful intervention you can ever offer to any team you lead.